quite get to the line as much as we're typically seeing him do, but that was another area of discrepancy for the Nets and Cavs tonight.
He is the subject of our stat of the night. 4 straight games with 10 points and 10 assists. The first Net since Darren Williams to do this since 2012. All right, this one's over. Cleveland heading home. It's a 2-game set versus Miami, a young Miami team coming off another win.
Yeah,
excuse me, a loss after having won.
Well, they're going to come in hungry, and you got
right.
that right, Nancy. I mean, think about the fact that despite playing without Jimmy Butler, playing without Tyler Hero, still without Avery Bradley, I know it didn't look pretty tonight down in Tampa. You got to get used to that playing against the Raptors. It's something that they still have so much potential in what they can do to you defensively, and offensively is the area where they're still trying to find their footing. Some of that coming from missing players. But Bam Adebayo is an absolute beast, and he's a monster. They're going to attack you in the inside. Kelly Olynyk is a big that can pull you out. So I think for a lot of reasons, the way Kendrick Nunn has been playing, Goran Dragic attacking the paint, a lot of these areas that we've been talking about that have been issues for the Nets, Miami's coming with it. And so it's going to be interesting just to see the type of energy I think that the Nets come in with, because that's been something the last few games we haven't quite seen, that attention to detail and focus. Will they bring it against a Miami Heat team that, of course, made it to the finals last year and has a lot of guys that will bring a sense of urgency into this one?
And we've seen that the opposition always gets up for the Nets, right?
Yeah.
Before we say goodbye, here's James Harden.
Yeah, that's freeze. Okay, go ahead.
All right, we'll get started with Michael Grady from Yes Network.
Hey, James, what's the message communication like between players in terms of the mental and the physical adjustments you guys want to make, and even verbal, adjustments you want to make defensively?
It's a little bit of everything. Our communication, our positioning. We haven't really had a lot of practice time, so we're kind of learning on the fly. But, I think communication is going to help a lot of that out. Just constant effort. We got to be more active on loose basketballs, do a really better job of rebounding the basketball, and then do a better job of just keeping our man in front of us. Those are some aspects that we can get better on. And, if we do those things and, the schemes and all the plays, that can, we can figure those out later. But the principles are those small things.
4 games, one sort of practice for you. What has this feel-out process been like for you in terms of, on the floor, facilitating for your new teammates versus looking for your own shot? What has that been like for you?
A little bit of a mixture of both. I got to be aggressive, a little bit more aggressive. But I feel like we're getting open shots. Honestly, our problem is an offense. Like, we scored 113 points tonight, and even last game was more than enough to win the game. I think defensively we have to be more engaged, and we have to round up some more stops consecutively, and that'll make our offense a lot better. So offensively, we're not worried at all. It's our defense.
Malika Andrews with ESPN.
James, Steve was talking about defense as an effort issue, as a pride issue. Is it an on-off switch for you guys, or do you think it's something where game by game there are little tweaks that you can make then to add up to something bigger?
Little tweaks. I think just individual, though, just guarding our man, small things like that, putting the body on, as the shot goes up, putting the body on the man to gain rebound, things like that we can control, and then the tweaks will go along with that. And then, as you add on games, then, we put 5 guys in great defensive possession. So, like I said, it'll take time, but I think those small things individually we can correct starting tomorrow.
Christian Winfield with the New York Daily News.
Hey, James, obviously you went those first couple games playing with just Kevin. What's it like learning to play with Kyrie and figuring that backcourt dynamic out?
That's a process. Obviously, we all know how great Kyrie, of a scorer he is. But like I said, for all of us, not just me, Katie, and Kai, it's all of us have to find a way to lock in and be engaged on the same page. Whatever 5 guys are out there defensively, as much as we can talk about scoring, we're very good at scoring. We got to, round up some stops. And once we get that going, then we'll be, elite on both ends of the ball. But right now our problem is defense.
Back to Malika with ESPN.
James, was there any difference for you in starting in the front court?
No. Nope.
Okay.
Steve Lichtenstein with WFAN.
Hi, James. You talked about guarding your man, but is there anything that you can do scheme-wise to keep ball handlers out of the paint a little better?
We can. We can, but I think individually, we watch film before games. So, we have to take upon the challenge to know who we're guarding, their tendencies and what they like to do, And tonight what killed us, they had maybe point paints. They had 70 points in the paint. That's a lot of points in the paint. So we just didn't do a good job of guarding the ball, and they got into the paint, and offensive rebounds happen, layups happen, and just not good things doesn't happen when the ball get in the paint. And tonight we allowed that too much.
Brian Lewis with the New York Post.
Hey, James. With the schedule being what it is, whatever schematic tweaks you guys would make, there's not a lot of time, a lot of practice time to do that. So is that just a matter of playing through that and having to come to an epiphany on the court?
Tomorrow we got another chance to get better. So I'm sure Coach will have some film for us pregame. Miami is, another great team, especially on the Eastern Conference, and, we're going to have to figure it out. But I think if we're engaged and, we have each other's back defensively, gang rebound, we'll have a chance in any game.
And last question, Matt Brooks with Nets Daily.
Hey, James. We talked quite a bit about on-ball defense. Do you feel like there's anything with help? Is it rotating over a little bit late as well? Is there anything you've been able to diagnose from where you're at on the floor?
I think, that's a good question. I think just individually, I think our communication, from the other four guys, the guy that isn't guarding the four guys that aren't guarding the ball, has to communicate on where the help is, where to send the dribbler, and to just communicate, have each other's back, and I think once our communication from all five guys are in sync, our defense will be that much better. But it seems like we're on an island, out there, and we have to all do a better job, including myself, of communicating and helping each other out defensively, which, will happen.
Extremely insightful interview from James Harden, and you understand not just is he gifted and talented, but the way in which he sees the game and the understanding that from top to bottom, coaching staff to players, they identify the areas of issue, and it's clear that it's defensively and it's communication, it's positionally, but it's also, as he mentioned, being more engaged. That will come with time. And I also thought it was interesting when James talked about his offensive game, when Michael Grady asked him about the balance, and maybe he needs to be more aggressive at sometimes looking for his shots, but feels like they're creating good looks on the offensive end. Of course, it circles back to defense. So it's going to be interesting to see how they try and shore that up as they continue to work through it here in game action with another opportunity tomorrow.
I always enjoy listening to him post-game and having you with me here. Thanks so much, Sarah. That's all for the post-game show.
Is brought to you in part by Toyota. Dear Winter, our new 2021 Toyota lineup is hotter than ever. Toyota, let's go places.
Welcome back to the Nets post-game show. Joe Harris, not a lot of time on Wednesday, a little more involved tonight. 8 points, 3 of 9 from the floor, about twice as many minutes on the floor. He hasn't been as involved as we'd like to see over the last couple of nights.
Yeah, and in particular with Kevin Durant out, you would have expected more touches. I know J.B. Bickerstaff had talked about the fact in the last game they've got to focus, and they do not want Joe getting clean looks and felt like he got too many the other night. But when it comes to Joe Harris, as I had mentioned before, some of it's going to come down to spacing, making extra passes. But some of it, too, you can put him in actions. You can put him in screens, whether it's off staggers, pin downs, or just dribble handoffs that can allow him to be freed up. And, this is going to be part of how defenses play the Nets, who they look to try and take away. But for someone like Joe Harris, what an integral part he is to the offense, you want him to get some more shots than he did in these last two.
Yeah, definitely. And he got the start tonight with KD out for a rest day. Let's hear from Joe Harris.
Hey, Joe, from your view, how did things get away from you as a team, particularly in that third quarter?
I think it was just a multitude of things. I think initially, though, it starts on the defensive end. We only scored 24 points in the quarter, and we gave up 37. A lot of it was, I think, the defensive miscues probably led into bad offense as well. And it was something that, was addressed at halftime. And, our sense of urgency just wasn't where it needed to be to start that third quarter.
At the moment, your size is your size. The guys that you have out there, the guys that you have. So what will it take to see improvement, on the defensive side?
It's tough because we don't have a ton of practice time, and we're really trying to put in a lot of stuff on the fly. But I think a lot of it is just individual pride. I think sort of everybody, to a man, has to kind of take a look at themselves and, lock in, focus, be able to take ownership on that end of the ball.
Laura Albanese with Newsday.
Hey, Joe. Obviously, as Steve mentioned, pride, hustle, all these things when it comes to your defense. Do you really think that's the key to you guys improving, or is there something schematically that you guys can change to improve in this area?
No, I don't think it really matters what you drop at this point. If guys are not, everybody's not bought in, everybody's not together, it's hard to win in this league, regardless of how much talent you have.
Brian Lewis with the New York Post.
Hey, Joe. Considering this is, you had a good look at this team 2 days ago, and I presume all of these things were probably discussed after the double overtime loss. Is it a little bit more surprising, I guess, that it was possibly even more of an issue 2 days later against the same team?
Yeah, definitely. I think, to a man, everybody is very frustrated right now. Just, we talked about a number of things yesterday, in our film session, and then even leading up to the game today. Obviously, like you mentioned, there was a lot of things that we addressed where we were trying to clean up, and the stuff that we talked about was the stuff that hurt us again tonight. We just not enough. I don't know. The energy was definitely on their side, even when it was close in the first half, and we never got it in our favor. We never really felt any momentum, and a lot of times I think that happens. A lot of times defense gives you energy. So when you're able to get stops, string them together, make some good defensive plays, you end up having a little bit more energy on the offensive end, and vice versa. So. It is a very frustrating thing, but we can't sit here and dwell on it. It's such a young early point in the season. The season is so young right now. We have so many games ahead of us, and we got to stick together. We got a game tomorrow that we got to lock in on and try and get ourselves right.
Christian Winfield with the New York Daily News.
Hey, Joe, just what's it like to have two so new former teammates? Like, you were just playing with Jared and Torian a week and change ago, and now you play against them, and they had pretty big games. What's it like to kind of have your old teammates have the performances they had tonight against you?
You wish that it wasn't against you, but obviously you're happy for them. Those are guys that build up good relationships with, and that's just that's the nature of the NBA. You play against a lot of guys that have been your teammates in the past. Obviously not probably as quick as of a turnaround as this. But you hope that those guys do well.
Alex Schiffer with The Athletic.
Hey, Joe, the sample size is small, but the first two games you played with James, you were getting all these open looks from three, and a lot of them were going in. And the past two games, I think you're 4 for 14 from three. Is that quick drop off just a product of getting integrated with everybody, fully healthy? Their defense are just not going in. Shots are not going in.
Probably a mix of everything. Over the course of the season, as a shooter, you're going to have a lot of ups and downs, and you just got to stay consistent, keep taking, the right shots, being aggressive, creating space for the guys on the court. And I think it's just sort of a, combination of really everything. You could sit here and had I made a few more shots, it would be maybe a different narrative around it. But, sometimes it's just how it goes.
Last question, Matt Brooks with Nets Daily.
Hey, Joe. This is kind of a weird matchup because it's such a larger team, and because you guys are just, a little bit smaller right now. But you guys have ended up with some cross matches, whether it's in transition and stuff like that down low. What type of things do you think could help? Is it like bringing in a doubles team or trying to do one of those scram switches? Like, what type of things do you think you guys have done well or you could do better, I guess?
I think we do get cross match a lot. We've been switching a lot, but we have big and strong guards, guys like James, that can guard in the post, TLC, myself, we have guys that, you can kind of trust in when you're guarding in the post. But again, I think it's just a little bit more, not letting guys beat you to the spot. It's hard to guard anybody if they, are a step ahead of you, whether it's a guard or a big. And then, the whole thing in terms of rebounding, everybody crashing, I think a lot of it is the guards. We got to do a better job being able to come back. The bigs are down there wrestling with some of the bigger guys, especially a team like Cleveland where, they're going with a little bit more size. Everybody's got to come back, rebound. Everybody has to get a body on their guy. It's just a lot of those little things that you got to clean up.
The Nets will start a 2-game series with the Heat tomorrow night in Brooklyn. The rematch at Barclays Center will take place on Monday. Once they finish up with Miami, the Nets will head out on a 3-game road trip that begins Wednesday in Atlanta. They are also scheduled to visit the Thunder and the Wizards before they head back home. Head coach Steve Nash wanted his team to raise the intensity with a focus on defense. He got it in spurts, not enough. Let's get the post-game thoughts of the head coach, Steve Nash. He spoke to the media and Michael moments ago.
Hey, Coach, we've talked about the lack of size, but from an intensity standpoint, being locked in, effort, all of that, what do you see from your guys in the second half?
They'll still need a little more. I think we're last in the league in 50-50 balls, contested shots, hustle plays. We've just got to find a way to play harder, dig deeper. We're not a defensive roster. We have to take more pride in it, and we have to win more 50-50s, contest more shots, fight, scrap, claw. And that's what I think is missing as much as anything schematic that we're breaking down.
Is that you can expound on this, but is that your biggest takeaway from these last 2 games? And if not, what is the big takeaway from these games with the Cavs?
Yeah. I mean, you could talk about that we're not a defensive team or we made too many errors schematically. But, I think the bigger message is that, we're just showing up to the gym is not good enough. Like we're playing people that I think are excited to play and compete against our team, and they're going to bring it every night, and we have to match that. So that would be my main overriding thought on these 2 games.
Brian Lewis with the New York Post.
Hey, Steve, how concerning is it when you consider this is the same team that you just saw them 2 days ago. So you would think, considering the way that game went, and this was a topic then as well, that your guys would be fully engaged and Cleveland would have your full attention. I mean, how concerning is it then to see that kind of effort level and physicality level?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to overreact. But it is something that we have to continue to chip away at. We have to build that resolve, that hunger, that desire to win some hustle battles, to win the turnover margin, the rebounding margin, win in other ways. We got a lot of things to work on. There's a lot to clean up. It's very early. Like I said, it's relatively new. Having Kai back after 2 weeks, James joining the team, Kevin sitting out tonight. It's a lot thrown at us. So, I don't want to overreact, but we are going to urge the guys to clean up as much as we can the hustle areas, but also schematically just continue to refine and get better. And you know how this league is. A few days ago, we're on a 4-game winning streak, and now we underperformed in 2 games. So we got to find a way to get ourselves, playing a little cleaner, a little sharper, and trying to clean up some of these categories that we're not competing well enough in.
Alex Schiffer with The Athletic.
Hey, Steve, in the first half, I think you guys just had 2 turnovers. You were really clean with it. And then in the third quarter, just that kind of all came unraveling. Just what do you think changed with that?
I don't know. You could say carelessness, or you could say familiarity. We haven't played together. It's the second game. But, you you want to protect them in a sense and say like, hey, it's early, and at the same time, you expect them to perform. So I don't want to give them an out, but I also don't want to overreact on the night and realize that this is going to be a season where, it's going to be funky. It's not going to be your normal growth and progression where, I think we've played more games than any team in the league and had less practice time, and we're a new group and had a lot thrown at us. So I don't want to overreact, but we definitely are aware of our defensive inefficiencies, and we have to control some of those things that we can control. We can't control necessarily adding more defenders right now, but we can control how clean we are with our communication and our schemes. So we've worked on that every off day. We go over it game day, and we just got to keep chipping away and keep improving in those areas.
Malika Andrews with ESPN.
Steve, it is still early in the season, and you said often that you don't want to overreact or put too much weight on early games, which makes sense. But is there a point where you have in your mind, this is when we need this figured out by? Is it, when nothing matters until the playoffs? When is the point to react?
Well, there will be some reactions along the way, for sure. You've already seen me get upset this year. But having said that, I do think this is one of those years, and this is one of those groups without a training camp. It's going to take us the entire year. So does that mean I expect us to be at this level until the playoffs? No, I expect us to improve, and, we'll have some weeks will be better than others, but as long as we're continually trending towards a higher level, that's all you can ask for. So, like I said, couple days ago, we were going well, and here we are getting outplayed twice in a row in Cleveland, and we got to get back and find that juice to if nothing else, make people feel us and make them pay for what we play, how we play out there on the floor. Right now, it just felt like Cleveland never really had to feel us, and so that's a lesson for us, and we'll get another shot at it tomorrow night.
Christian Winfield with the New York Daily News.
Hey, Coach, how does integrating James Harden into the rotation kind of change your rotations? Like, do you have to be more strategic with who you want to put around him versus what you had before?
We're constantly going to search for what is the best rotation. We took, in a sense, Jeff came out of the starting lineup tonight for one reason, in that we're really small on that second unit. So we wanted him there with Reggie on the second unit. So we're constantly trying to search and find that, because James is going to run the second unit. We got to continue to work through this and continual discovery on what are our best rotations and combinations. But, we also got to be patient and try to survive in some senses this early season for us. And, we got a lot to clean up, but we got a lot to build on too. So while we're frustrated, while we need a reaction, we also don't need to overreact and keep this team together, because that's the one thing that can unsettle us, is if we don't stick together, and if we allow some of these disappointments to magnify and to throw us off. We got to really just continue to push together and take some lumps along the way that will make us better and show more resolve and give us some lessons that'll be necessary when come playoff time.
And last question, back to Michael Grady with Yes.
Coach, you were mentioning that teams are getting excited to play against you. Is there enough of a sample size just to notice a trend in the effort and the difference in effort against a Utah, against a Philadelphia, against a Milwaukee most recently, and no disrespect to the Cavs, but against those other teams that aren't necessarily your top tier?
Yeah, you see the records. We've done well against better teams, but we've talked to them about having a target on our backs, and that you're going to get people's best shots, and they'll be excited to play against the guys that we have on our roster. So there's a certain element of that, but like I said, we have to make them aware of that discrepancy in the effort and against the team we're playing, but also just overall that we stick to what our path is. And it's not a normal season, so it's not going to be 2 days between games sometimes where you can practice. It's going to be very rare. We're going to have to really keep chipping away. It's going to be small margins and small growths, but continually, have that be our plan and not get sideways over a couple losses. So we got to demand, we got to expect, we got to push, and at the same time, we got to understand that it's not going to be straightforward this season because of the parameters that we're facing.
Thanks so much, Coach. We appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Good night.
Sarah, to echo Coach here, he said a lot.